Well, when is the best time to learn how to fly? I was thinking about this, and well, right now, welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name's Graham Wilson, and I'm going to be talking today about starting your journey of learning how to fly in my basement. Okay, and hey, Corey, I see you in the chat here. Um, anyone, yeah, as we get going on here, anyone, feel free to throw in any questions you want in the chat, and I'll get to them either as they pop up or at the end. We'll see. All right, so I was thinking about the other day. Okay, I'm gonna talk about all right, when to start flying, and because I was thinking it's December now. And generally, this is when the weather starts getting really bad around where I live, Windsor, Ontario. So that's like Midwestern United States, Eastern, Northeastern United States, pretty much all of Canada. I don't know, across the Midwest. Well, I don't know what else we call that. Further past the Midwest, up by the the top of the United States. So that's it's wintertime. And statistically, it gets December's pretty bad, but statistically, all across that little band, it's that I described geographically. That's January is the statistical coldest and snowiest month, and February is about the same and not too far behind. So, okay, so what I'm going to talk about here is okay, you're starting to learn how to fly. And I was thinking, okay, this is a terrible time to learn how to fly because the weather's so bad. But then I was thinking of a few other factors. And when you start doing anything with aviation, there's you can always think, oh, this. And then, oh, there's that. And oh, yeah, let's not forget about that. And then one little simple thing turns into 10 different things that you could think of. So, and what we're going to do here is I'm gonna kind of tailor this to somebody who this show to somebody they don't have a pilot's license right now and they'd like to get one. So, like, what do you actually do? I want to learn how to fly. Like, how do you actually do that? Like, do I email somebody? Do I text somebody? Do I show up somewhere? Do I drive somewhere? What do I do? So I'm gonna make. There's my little calendar. December. Today's right here. That's when you got to start flying right away. But we'll get to that. Okay, I'm gonna make a little list of things to do, and it's gonna be 5 things. Why 5? Because you got 5 fingers, 4 fingers in a thumb, and hey, why not 5? It's a nice number. Okay, first thing you got to do, and you can find this out on the internet. You're going to need a whole bunch of money. Or if you're, I'm not sure how it works over in Europe, but chances are you're going to need some euros over there too. If you're in Japan, I think this is a yen, something like that. Anyways, it's way more expensive to learn how to fly over in Europe and Japan. I don't even want to think how much it costs there. So yeah, we're got to save up some cash. It's not a cheap endeavor to learn how to fly. Ballpark, it probably costs you around, it's hard to say. Maybe I'm thinking Canadian dollars around here, probably $15,000. United States might be about 10,000, I'm guessing, depending on where you are. 10,000 US, maybe a little cheaper, probably about 8,000 US over there. And yeah, so save up some cash, because what I've seen happen is some people, this happens a lot with university students. They go out of town to learn how to fly. They got this big fat check sitting there, the student loan or something, like, hey, I'm rich, I'm going to learn how to fly. And then they show up, they do a few flights in September, October, and they're really into it. And then they got to study for midterms, and they study for exams, and they run out of money, and they don't want to tell their parents that they're learning how to fly, and that's why they're broke and stuff. Then they run out of cash. So you got to have a good, I'd say, if you have a decent job, save up at least half of what you think you'll need, at least half, before you start learning how to fly. So get that cash together now. And then people are also thinking, is there like a course? Is there a school? Like, do you go to university? Do you go to college? What do you do? You just kind of do a Google search, learn to fly, and then your city or town, and Google will tell you the closest place to go, and hook you up with somebody that, or some sort of phone numbers, such and such flying service, such and such. And even if it's anything remotely close to, like, maybe there's some mechanic or something, you can call up some mechanic that fixes airplanes and say, hey dude, where do I want to learn how to fly? And they'll say, oh, this place, I got the number right here. So everyone will help everyone else out in the aviation industry. And okay, Corey here is from Kingston. Right on. Kingston Airfield. That's was it Kingston? I think there's two places in Kingston. I think it's, I want to say, like Fly Kingston and the Kingston Flying Club. A couple places there. But anyways, yeah. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna call up someplace, email them, however you want to contact them, and you're going to book yourself an introductory flight or an intro flight. Intro flight. Okay, you got your money and you're going to do your intro flight. Now, that intro flight, that introductory flight, some people call it discovery flight. That technically is your very first flying lesson. So if you take that introductory flight, you have started flight training. That's how you start. You hop in the plane. The pilot will take off and say, okay, fly the plane around. And you'll go, whoa, this is freaky, man. And then there you go. You just learned how to fly. There's a little bit more to it than that. But that's how you start. You just hop in a plane and go, and then start asking your instructor questions and the flight school questions and stuff like that. And then another reason I was thinking about that maybe this isn't the worst time to start thinking about learning how to fly, even though the weather is going to be garbage in January, February. I know in Ontario, anyways, is that to get your medical processed, you need to have a certain medical fitness level to become a pilot. And right now, the paperwork is massively backed up with Transport Canada, and you're waiting an insanely long amount of time to get that all processed. And you might be ready to go solo pretty quickly if you can fly a lot, but you're waiting on the paperwork from Transport Canada to finish up. So get that medical right away. So we're going to put that down there. Get your medical. That's really, really important. And you can ask after you do your introductory flight, you can ask your instructor, say, hey, this guy that talks in his basement says I got to get some medical or something. When should I do that? So, oh yeah, okay. Wrench is here too. He's saying that flight schools near me are busy with pilot shortage. Get a logbook too. That's right. You do have to have a logbook. That's you can treat yourself to one of those. And I would probably say if you're thinking about doing it as a job, get an electronic logbook right away. Makes things a lot easier for your paperwork down the road. And so what else can we talk to you here? Yeah, there is still a pilot shortage going out there, according to Wrench here, and he's in Kansas. Yeah, it's they're the baby boomers are still retiring from the airlines, and then they're scooping up all the instructors, and everyone's. I mean, I've had a few people contact me where they wanted me to teach them their instructor rating, and I'm retired, so I'm kind of like not really quite a boomer, but I'm it's I'm trying to kind of do a little bit more of this and enjoy life rather than working like hours and hours and hours a week. So but yeah, I mean, if they're just kind of finding out about somebody that's hanging out in his basement and they're contacting me to learn how to fly, then or get their instructor ratings, it's there's a bit of a shortage there. So that's another thing that can drag out your training. But the medical, yeah, you get that right away. I've heard in different parts of Canada it's not so bad. I'm not sure. I still think in the States They don't have any problems with that. Anything I've heard, anyways. And what else we got here? Okay. We're going to talk about next. Okay, so you just did your introductory flight, and you're going to ask about learning how to fly, and they're going to bring up ground school. So we'll do that. I would say for ground school, if you don't have your medical, you don't need a valid medical to attend ground school. And I would say get in the soonest ground school you can. I would also say that the sooner you can get your written test out of the way, the better. You get that done legally in Canada. You can do your flight test before you do the written test, but most places don't recommend that. I don't recommend that. I've had 2 students do that. I've had a couple students fail their flight test because they didn't have the knowledge that they needed, that they would have had if they did their ground school, or they finished their ground school, but they didn't write their test yet. So it's like, yeah, you got to get that. Once you get that boring written stuff out of the way, then you're going to be, then you just got to fly, and then that's the fun part. So sign up for ground school. Most places they'll start ground school a new class in January. Usually they'll be where I was. It was January, September. Sometimes we'd have it in the summer too. So probably about May. You can kind of, wherever your flight school is, they'll hook you up with that. And there are some places where it can be done online too. That might be worth looking into. Okay, we got that. Another thing that you're going to ask about is, okay, if you have the choice, if you live in a place where you can check out other airports, that maybe it's, one place might be an hour drive away, one place might be a half-hour drive away, but the place that's an hour drive away has way better availability for instructors and airplanes. It might be if you have an opportunity at all to kind of shop around, make sure you do that, and ask about we're going to add 6 here. We're going to ask about, if you're shopping around, I guess we could call that 5A, but we'll call it 6. Ask about airplane and instructor. Like Wrench was saying, they're short on instructors. Availability. Instructor. Oh, I'm running out of room. Okay. So ask about the plane and instructor availability. So you could, make a choice on that. If things, one of the things that I would always recommend is that if you can, it's more economical to learn at a small airport with no air traffic control, with less air traffic around, because you can get, say you're doing a 1-hour lesson, you might just be on the ground for a little bit, and you taxi out and off you go. To get to the where you're going to be doing your practice thing, it's just like 5 miles away. You're there in a few minutes, and you can get a lot more done in a 1-hour lesson at a small airport than you can at a big one, and that's gonna that in the end will cut down your expenses because you pay by the hour when you're in the airplane. So. What else we got here? I'm just kind of looking around in the comments. Yeah. So, anyways, well, Corey's talking about how he should have joined the service. But anyways, if you ever, that's another way of learning how to fly, is to join up the Air Force. But usually, I know a guy that's I went to college with, and last I heard, he was instructing. He was on an exchange over in England, teaching like fighter pilot maneuvers and stuff like that. or what was it, low level flying? Anyways, it was some place that was around Wales or something, and they're doing all kinds of cool Top Gun stuff in the valleys. He was telling me about it, said it was really cool. Haven't heard from him in a little while, but anyways, yeah. So he went to he actually learned how to fly before joining the forces, but there were people there starting from scratch. But you do have to have a university degree for that. And if you are going to join the Air Force, and that's the only thing you want to do, you get yourself the cheapest, easiest degree. That's what he got. It was it general arts? No, it was a BA in general studies. He was taking all this like, yeah, I'm going to take this art class with paint a bunch of nude chicks, stuff like that, and whatever, just I'll take this. He's basket weaving. Yeah, there we go. So he said it was a real joke. That, anyways, but hey, there we go. He's captain now, and training captain. So, all right. So that's another way you can learn. But I mean, it's if you are going to join the Air Force, for him, the Canadian Armed Forces, anyways. He did all kinds of stuff. Like he was a media liaison officer for the Cold Lake, Alberta, or Cold Lake, Canadian Forces Base, Cold Lake, way up north in Edmonton, in Alberta. And yeah, so his job was to sit there, and if anybody ever called up from the news, he would talk to him. That was his job. So he just kind of sit around and do nothing because he was waiting to get on a course for flying. Another one, what did he do? He spent, it was like 6 or 9 months in a basement in Winnipeg, scanning documents. So here you go, Captain. Here's a pile of documents. Scan them. You turn them into PDF format, and then shred the papers. There you go. 9 months. So, yeah, you can be. If you're joining the Air Force to learn how to fly, there's a lot more to it. And I would say talk to not just a recruiter, talk to someone who's actually done the job, and that's for anywhere in the armed forces. Okay. Yeah. So there's not really a whole lot that I wanted to talk to you today about, other than, and I think I might change the title on this to something more like, I was thinking, what time of year is the best time of year to learn how to fly? But basically, any time of year is the best time of year to fly. What's going to happen is it'll take you about a year, anyways. What I've found, even if you're really trying to hustle, it'll take you about a year. Most people takes about a year and a half or 2 years. If you have a job and maybe you got a wife, maybe you got some kids, maybe you're doing this and that, maybe you got a sick relative you got to take care of, that happens. So it's like, you are going to go through a winter, and we're coming up to the winter. I used to hate the winter, not so much because I couldn't go flying, but because your job is to go up and call all your students and cancel on them. I call it canceling season. So it's just like, yeah, can't go flying. Oh, weather, ceiling's too low. Oh, freezing rain. Oh, oh, blizzard's coming in. Oh, they haven't cleared the runway yet. So anyways, you got to, but at that time, what a lot of smart people do is, even if you did have a flight, here's a winter flying tip if you're learning how to fly. Even if your flight's canceled, go to the airport anyways, and just go to the ground school room. It'll be empty, and do some studying for your written test. The one thing I found with myself, even though, yeah, one of the things I always say is, if you're away from the airport, it's easy to stay away from the airport. And then the longer you're away from the airport, the less you feel like going back to it. And then you go to the airport and you go flying, and you're like, why did it take so long to go flying? That was fun. As I look at my logbook, I haven't flown in a year. What? A lot of people do that. So if you can, even if your flight's canceled, go to whatever flying school you're at, and there's probably a ground school room there that's empty, and you can do some studying. And along the way, you will be talking about airplanes with people. And here's another little ground school tip for you too, which I don't think I've ever said on the channel. But if you're taking ground school, or you're at an airport, at any airport anywhere, you always have something in common with everybody there. You like airplanes, and you can always talk airplanes. And it's a really diverse body of people that become pilots. it's like engineers, doctors, nurses, teachers, machinists, mechanics, millwrights, electricians, like you name it. Do I know a plumber? I don't know any plumbers that are pilots. Oh, but like mechanical services, yeah. So the yeah, so no matter who you're talking to, it could be an old person, young person, they pull up they pull up in like this, like, $100,000 Acura or something like that. And you're like, oh, I got my Toyota Corolla. But you guys can still talk about airplanes. And you never know. You might be more ahead than the person in the Acura, or the Porsche or something like that. You probably you got yourself a Honda 400 or something like that for your first bike, and some guy shows up on a $30,000 Harley. You guys can still talk bikes and airplanes. So because that guy on the Harley had a 400 before he got the Harley. So yeah, I mean, you don't ever feel intimidated by anyone at an airport, because you have something in common. Even some guy standing around with a camera. He loves airplanes. He's probably plane spotting. You could talk about all the airplane stuff you want. And you never know, you might find a flying buddy or something like that. So yeah, so okay, we're gonna go over. I'm gonna do a little recap here, and then go over some questions. I see one in there from Reg, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Okay, list of things to do. What's the best time of year to fly? Right away. Get in the airplane, but first you need some cash. Here we go. And then you're going to call up, you're going to book yourself an intro flight and go flying. Now, if there's a couple airports, you're going to do one at one flying school, you're going to do another one at the other flying school. And both of those flights will still count towards your flight training. So don't worry about that. Okay, you're going to get your medical, especially here in Ontario, right away. You could be waiting a long time to get it. And ask when you go for your intro flight, ask about, hey, how long is it taking for medicals to get processed these days? Then you're going to sign up for ground school. Take the soonest one you can get, and stick with it. Okay, you're going to go to other airports and shop around, and you're going to ask at those other airports. You're going to ask about plane availability and instructor availability. And there we go. So there's your list of things to do when you're going to go learn how to fly. And okay, so yeah, Wrench, I see your question there. Do I recommend the IFR in 3 days courses? That's that's a big thing in the United States, not so much here in Canada. The way that in the United States, to do all of your written exams, they're all there's, I think it's a study book called GLIME or something like that. And in the United States, it's a little different than Canada, that they're all the written tests, because they are put out by the federal government. It's all public knowledge. So the questions are there, and the answers are there too. So if you can just memorize stuff, you see this question. Oh, I remember that. It's D. What does that mean? I don't know, but it's D, and I passed the test. So that's what they can do. It's pretty. The written tests are easier to pass over in the States because they have fantastic study guides there. You don't really have that in Canada. It's kind of top secret what the tests are, and they change them every once in a while on you. So, okay, so the IFR in 3 days courses. In general, okay, you probably couldn't get it exactly in 3 days. You'd have to do some other studying on top of that. Let me see here. Okay, and no matter what, I'd recommend, if you're a pilot, if you like, I know, Wrench, you're a private pilot, that any other training that you do always benefits you, no matter what. Is this really beneficial? Is it somewhat beneficial? It'll benefit you no matter what. Like, say, when I got my float rating, so I can fly on a float plane, off the water. Before that, I had never really used my feet too much in the plane, but on a float plane, you have to use a lot of rudder, like full rudder all the time. So it wakes up your feet. And then you learn how to read the waves to see where the wind is coming from. That can help you pick the right runway if you're landing at a runway that's next to a shoreline or something. So, and oh, hey, Chad, good to see you here. And yeah, so if you're, yeah, so I would say, is a IFR in 3 days course worth it? I would say, yeah, go for it. Uh, but I would expect you'd probably have to do it's not, I'm highly suspect that it would be like, here's 3 days and you got it. It takes a lot longer for that stuff to sink in. And it's, yeah, IFR is a tricky thing. It's that stands for instrument flight rules, and that means, so if you're flying your airplane and you can't see anything, you're inside of a cloud, or the visibility is really bad, or it could be even really dark at night over the water. It's like you're flying in ink. So you have to rely on your instruments, and there's a certain amount of rules that you have to learn about that, and there's a certain amount of certain techniques that you have to learn to fly that properly. So I would say, yeah, it's I'd ask around. I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on that, but I would always say that any training that you get, even if you train for your instrument rating and you don't even get it, you're gonna find yourself a lot better pilot. That's for sure. So oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, so Wrench is saying about the IFR in 3 days. You can't start until you've passed the written. So yeah, so something are 10 days. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you can do that. And then is the weather going to cooperate on you for all that training too? You can fly in bad weather with IFR, but you can't fly in like lightning and hail and freezing rain, stuff like that. So anyways, yeah, I'd ask around a bit more, but I'd say, yeah, definitely take any extra training as a pilot that you can get. It all makes you improve. Whether you start off, you get your instrument rating. Here in Canada, we have to have a special night rating. It's a little different than the States. Um, and instrument rating, you get a commercial license. Like for me, I wrote my ATPL exams to get an airline transport, like to be a captain on an airliner, but I had no interest in ever doing that. But I was always telling my students that, like, okay, the more you learn, the better you're going to be. And then I capped out, and then I was like, well, you know what? I should put my money where my mouth is. So I took I went and wrote my ATPL exams, and sure enough, I learned a bunch of stuff that I taught it maybe a little bit in ground school, but I really had to know it for the exams. So even just studying for that, uh, it helped me become a better pilot, even though I never did fly any jets or anything. But I know some jet stuff now, and I can know what they're thinking when they're flying around, and that can influence my judgment. I know what they can and can't do. So, anyways, here we go. Let's anything else in here? Hey, Shecky's here too. Hey, Shecky. Hit that like button. Yeah, sure. Go for it. I don't know if it does anything, but I'll take all the likes I could get. I'm always doing thumbs up on this show. So, anyways, what else we got here? I'm just going to scroll back a little bit, see if there's any other questions. And yeah, check out the Chad Elkins CPA. I was checking out his show last night, and Chad's show last night was really interesting. He was talking about, he had someone on there that was dealing with expatriate taxation and stuff, and even I was thinking like, wow, man, he's talking about like how to be some rich billionaire guy and hide all your money. It was pretty cool. So check out Chad Elkins CPA at his channel if you want. And, I think you'll find it interesting. Okay, what else we got here? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's about all the questions here, and we're coming up on about a half an hour. I must be just all chatty today or something. So, anyways, we're just going to shut her down. So, what day is today? Today is Wednesday. So, I'll be back here on Friday at noon because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern, and we'll just kind of shut her down. So, all right, everybody that showed up today, thanks for watching. Bye.